Hello, Pauper fans. This is Mathonical, and you're joining me for round one of the first recorded Pauper League that I've done. We're going to be playing some Slivers, as you can see here, one of my favorite archetypes, and this looks like a great hand. We got two lands, both of our colors, and a lot of reasonable Slivers, including a 1-drop, so absolutely happy keeping this one. For the most part, Slivers does play fairly linearly. It's usually just a matter of sequencing the early couple turns to make sure you get maximum slivers on the battlefield, going for damage or something of that effect, and then also trying to play around your opponent's counter spells, especially when you're playing against blue. So here, it's debatable whether we want to throw a sliver into the counter magic, so I just decided to hold back entirely. Since we already have 4 power on board that we can keep swinging in, we might as well put our opponent to the test of if they can answer this and not expose any of our slivers to some obvious counter magic that is being held up. So we're just going to keep going along with that plan for now. And then we see a Jace's Erasure. This is pretty interesting. I've learned a bit more about this deck after the video, but this was the first time I've seen an archetype like this where they're playing Jace's Erasure in what looks like a mono blue build. But I'm just going to keep getting in there as I kind of plan to with slivers. If anything starts going awry, I've got plenty of slivers to back it up. So here, because he's only got 3 mana up, I'm going to cast a Muscle Sliver, expecting it to be countered, because I plan on using this Mutagenic Growth to win the game. He'd basically need a Vapor Snag here to get around that, and he did not have it. So, very quick game one. We just kind of played a couple creatures, and since he didn't play anything to get in the way of that, it worked out quite advantageous for us. So we're going to jump into game 2. Wasn't really sure how to sideboard against this, so I wasn't sure if this was some kind of a Turbo Fog deck or anything like that. So my sideboarding might seem a little strange. I was trying to figure out what would be best here. I felt like the Sentinel Slivers wasn't going to be the best idea, since if he doesn't have creatures, what's the point in having Vigilance? And I didn't see any red, didn't need anything like that. Wasn't seeing any targeting effects. If he's a bit more of a controlling deck, I definitely want the Palace Sentinels, and because of that, I decided I wanted to lower my curve, so I took out a couple Lead the Stampedes. I decided I wanted to go a little lower to the ground with an upper, with my win condition kind of being Palace Sentinels, since I didn't see any creatures. So what I brought in was the 2 Palace Sentinels. I brought in the Gleeful Sabotages because I didn't want to be kind of milled out by the Jace's Erasures or anything like that, and I ended up trading those 5 cards for the 3 Sentinel Slivers and the 1 Mutagenic Growth, 2 Lead the Stampedes. I also brought in the Relic of Progenitus, because once again I wasn't sure if he was going on a Turbo Fog, just didn't see the green or something. So that's just how I went with it for this one. Looking at the opening hand, this kind of hand doesn't put a lot of pressure on our opponent, although it does have a reasonable set of creatures. So it is a reasonable keep, and even though I'm a little reluctant, I decided to go with it. This obviously shows me that it's some kind of either Delver Mill or some kind of transitional sideboard, so if this does go to game 3, we can definitely adjust our sideboard plan accordingly. Ninja on turn 2, that does not bode the best for us, but we should be able to do something about it. Just going to drop the Sinew Sliver, possibly incentivizing my opponent to not attack into it. And it works. I probably was not going to block, because Sliver creatures are very important to keep alive. And getting the Spinneret Sliver there is absolutely amazing. It means that we now have the ability to block any flyers that we want. And it turns out our Gleeful Sabotage is not dead after all, because they played a Spire Golem. I'm just going to go ahead and play a Virulent Sliver here to try and bait out some kind of counter magic, but since the counter magic didn't come, I'm not going to bother attacking or trying to get rid of the Spire Golem at this point. I'm also tempted to kind of hold it to see if there's a second Spire Golem coming, and then I'd get a nice 2-for-1. Opponent's playing out their hand. They've been fairly unlucky to not flip their Delver so he gets 2 turns in a row, but that bodes well for us. Means we don't have to trade any of our Slivers to kill them. Predatory Sliver is exactly the kind of sliver we want, and now I want to use the Gleeful Sabotage to bait out something. He's got a Snap, so he's able to save his creature, but if he's playing that, then let's just try and get it out, and it does work. Since he doesn't have a nice big creature to block, we're just going to send everything in. Bouncing the Sidewinder was necessary for him because he wouldn't be able to make any blocks otherwise, and so he tries to go for a double block, but once again the Mutagenic Growth, being free, comes in huge. And we're just going to replay our Sidewinder Sliver. So this is an excellent position for us. None of his creatures are able to block here, and any double block isn't going to work either, so we're just going to jam in there, and it is enough. So it's a very interesting deck that our opponent has today. I believe he has fight over with it a couple times, it's very interesting, and I love seeing new decks enter the meta. And yeah, we were able to get there with Slivers in round 1. I'll see you guys in round 2.